All right, there's no time to lose, no time to waste. It is entirely too late for a live stream, considering I only live streamed 2 hours ago. But in that interim live stream period, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome. My name is Lorne, host of the Halcyon Show, and Premier Battles decided to co-opt mine and Cammy streams, it seems, by coming on and blowing the bloody doors off of its entire production and setup, business practices, and all the rest of it. So I am going to struggle to really articulate all of this by memory, handily and cannily. And because I am an industrious little bastard, I decided to take notes. So let me pull this up quickly just so that you can have a frame of reference, hopefully, for what I'm about to talk about. So just while this is loading, let me set the table for you. Briggzy posted a very cryptic tweet earlier today referencing the fact that there were going to be no more live battles after Apex, or Apex would be the last live event, minus a few smaller events that weren't going to be widely publicized for the remainder of the year leading into 2026. This was quite shocking to a number of people, leading to speculation as to whether or not Premier Battles would even continue. That was some of the speculation that was seeming to be circulating or percolating. So they have held a live stream to discuss the 2026 plans with Prem, Apex being the last big event of the year. And here are the notes that I took. They obviously went into a bit more detail with some of this stuff, so some of it is abridged. I think the big thing to take, and obviously you can see they're still going live right now. I tuned out when, not content with insulting me personally, decided to eat fucking crisps into the microphone. I've heard it all anyway. I think they're just kind of addressing a lot of the comments that are in the stream, because obviously people are understandably curious as to what exactly is going on and what is actually happening, and so as a result, there is a lot of interest, quite a lot of sadness, quite a lot of resentment and resistance to this, which we'll probably talk about in a second. But let's address some of these aspects first. So, long story short, they are scrapping the remainder of their calendar in favor of a protracted build-up to what they are billing as a 2026 year-long tournament called Where Winning Matters, which is similar to their old match day setup in the sense of having, almost like a league system, as it were, which is where the concept of Premier Battles stemmed from. Starting in September, with content not being shown until January. The idea being, and this is where I'll swap to the next graphic, that they are turning it into effectively a production arm or a production company, as opposed to what Briggzy described, and I did make this note here. Where is it? They're a content company with a live event arm that runs at a loss, with Patreon keeping them afloat, and they are turning themselves into a production company. And the way that they're going to do this is that they are going to be filming brackets of battles over 3 dates and then staggering their releases to effectively formulate an ongoing stream schedule, not too dissimilar to the way that a lot of platforms these days devise and release television series. It's effectively Premier Battles, and this is why I use it in the title. This is Premier Battles going mainstream. This is them borrowing from tried and trusted methods of content production companies that span the entire world and trying to utilize it and embrace it through the prism of UK battle rap and the genre of UK battle rap. Now, just on the face of that, it's caused a bit of a stir because of what he also mentioned in terms of how they're packaging this or how they're aiming it. And that's with the express intent of trying to engage effectively a new audience, to try and energize a fan base that has felt lacking in recent times, and to try and produce it more towards people who do not watch battle rap. In fact, one of the comments that I thought was particularly interesting was the notion of retiring battle. That's quite a strong term. Obviously, he didn't mean it in the literal sense, but no, you're joining me here. For those watching this right now, by the way, live, I'm only doing this live because I want to just get it out into the ether because I have so many thoughts about it. But they're still talking about it now. As you can see on my stream on the right-hand side here, their stream is still live. 614 views so far. So by all means, feel free to hop onto that and catch up with everything exactly as it was said. I can't promise that I'll be saying everything that was said verbatim. Obviously, these are my notes as well. They're not exactly what he said. They're just my quick interpretation of them. Kinnell's in the chat as well. Kinnell, my friend, how are you doing? Anyways, what I was talking about was they are, in essence, trying to shrug off the current reception of their brand. They are trying to discard the notion of them being a niche regional promotion and attempting in some small way, at least initially, but in a much bigger way in a longer term, of repackaging themselves as effectively a production company that utilizes battle rap as its content stream. And they're basically trying to also divest themselves from the notion of selling tickets to live events expressly off of the backs of names that people already know, and attempting to utilize more of what you've seen with the UFC and WWE and other big brands, which is, no, you're investing in us as a brand, and we will present content to you that you can digest at a regular pace that maybe is not of the name value that you once had, but you are effectively investing in a long-term roadmap of sorts in terms of, again, this is why I think Briggzy was actually very astute to bring these graphics, because look, he's literally building it out for you. Those are all the dates, those are all the venues, those are all the way that it's going to be tiered and structured. They've even given this as well. I apologize, it's not the clearest image the way it's been presented here, but effectively they've also got a group formatting stage. They've also highlighted some of the aspects of it. You know, he's effectively selling a entirely new way of presenting Premier Battles as a whole, and the whole purpose of it is to try and engage what is a current generation and a younger generation of content consumers. I think what they have reckoned with is the fact that social media does not serve battle rap in the way that it once does. Battle rap or a cappella battle rap cannot compete with On Beat. It cannot compete with the modern incarnations of content because it is just not possible to clip it and present it in such a way that it can be digested and enjoyed by people that are more akin to being fed content than seeking content. And effectively, that's what he's doing. He's trying to, instead of competing with it, he is trying to completely divest their reliance on that notion of having to compete with it. One of the unintended, or maybe one of the side effects of this seems to be that they are also going to be walking away from a lot of battlers who have big names but will not commit to a year-long tournament. You know, I think, again, he said retire battlers who cannot commit and invest in battlers who are there to build their and Premier Battles brand and have the energy for at least 4 battles a year. With a notion of trying to promote and build and invest in a scene in 10 years now time, as opposed to the scene as it exists now. The whole way he's going to be doing this is utilizing his contacts within the television production industry to produce Premier Battle on platforms to gain higher viewership. This may not be the final version. They're giving themselves a little wiggle room here because, of course, this is all, again, it's all pie in the sky stuff ultimately, because, of course, you don't know if it's actually going to come off the way you want it to. I mean, it's all well and good presenting it like everyone else does. Again, it's all well and good starting a UFC competitor, but then you realize UFC has 95% of the market share and you can't compete. We'll come on to some of the other details, but the thing that strikes me about this whole thing is that it's probably going to be quite a painful transition for more people than they would like to admit, because and he said that battle rap is niche. I put a comment in there that they actually, in fair play, they picked up a few of my comments, and that's kind of surprising given that he was I'll come to that in a minute, but we'll come back to that. But one of my comments was it's only niche based on the fact of how it's presented and how it's perceived. If you can change the presentation and the perception of UK battle rap through the prism of re-platforming it to people and presenting it in a way that's more easily digestible to the current culture, it no longer needs to be, because all it needs is to gain some traction in the same way that Pen Game has and that other content creators do when they stop anchoring themselves into a current way of doing things. Canal was in the chat, by the way. Canal's a great example of someone that modernizes and contemporizes a lot of what he does. If he can do it and he's all on his lonesome, you would think that a company with the resources and experiences of Premier Battles with adequate financing can and will do the same thing. And I've always and what I feel like this is a vindication of what I've been basically asking for since I started being a bit more critical of Premier Battles and battle rap as a whole. This notion of this is just how it's done, and that's the way it will be done. This feels like the first step and a really big acknowledgement that, and what I've also said, which is Premier Battles do listen to their fan base. They are trying to address that stagnant, somewhat repetitive, lacking in any real stakes notion of the fandom of battle rap at the moment, which is ultimately what does it all matter? Is it all just a kind of an excuse to get together and hang out? Or is this for something greater? Is this building towards something? Are we investing in something worthwhile, or something that just is around for as long as people have passion for it? And I feel like this is a big statement to that effect. This is them acknowledging, no, we do want this to be building towards something. We want this investment to pay off and permeate in ways that are beneficial not only to you as the audience, but to our battlers. And to that effect, he mentioned that there's prize money for the tournament as a whole, but he also mentioned that the idea is ultimately to build the brand to become much more of an enticing advertising or sponsorship prospect in order to then put people on salary and turn the company of Premier Battles, or the promotion of Premier Battles, into a full-fledged company to make sure that the people working for it can make a living. Again, what have I been... Again, go back, watch any of my live streams. What have I been saying about battle rap, the people that work in battle rap deserving to be able to earn a living doing the thing that they're expert at? The one thing that's kind of put a few people's noses out of joint, of course, is the fact that Briggzy has made pretty heavy overtures towards saying, look, we're not booking the heavyweights now. We're going to be focusing on people who have performed for Prem, but maybe are underutilized or underappreciated or certainly undervalued, and investing in them in terms of building narratives, building stakes, building stories. And of course, that's going to lead a lot of people to think, well, what about my favorites? What about the people that have built the scene? What about the people that have contributed? What about the people that can still make a contribution? His caveat to that seems to be that they will still be able to perform once a year. There'll be cards. Yo, David, what's good, man? You should be watching the Prem thing. Again, if there's any... How many people are watching? Hang on, I don't have my analytics up. There's 3 of you watching. I love you all for watching. You're all diamonds for doing it. They're still live right now, so there may still be more information that's being divulged. I don't know. I've gotten the headlines from this. It's Briggzy in trouble, so I suppose that, you know, there may be some additional information that's still coming out as we speak. But basically, one of the things that I was just touching on there is this notion of trying to distance themselves from this notion of having big headline names in order to sell a live event, and instead trying to create a long-term content stream that people can buy into. I think David was, because there were people. There was one guy kind of conscientiously objecting to the idea of limiting the number of live events in order to improve the overall quality, and saying, "Do you not?" It was Hylas as well that mirrored this notion by saying, "You know, do you not fear that this is going to alienate your audience?" I think you're thinking about it the wrong way. I think they are aware, and acutely so, that I think they're acutely aware that the fans of battle rap, again, as I highlighted in my live stream earlier this evening, they're not going anywhere. The problem has been mobilizing and motivating the current iteration of battle rap fans to attend live events, which to a large degree they've been unsuccessful in doing, and that's not exclusive to them. That's Don't Flop and No Lose Chat to a certain degree as well, because just getting 50, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people to motivated to travel and buy a ticket and pay to be in the venue and all the rest of it has proven to be an increasingly hard endeavor. The other thing as well that they have struggled with in recent times is battlers and the apathy towards performing on certain cards because they know the turnout is not going to be good, because they know the presentation and the numbers are not going to be good. And Kinnell's is highlighting another thing, which is an aspect of the gamble that they're making by basically plotting a roadmap of content, which is, well, what if I don't like the initial iteration and I'm not planning on banking my time over the course of a year? These are valid concerns, and again, I want to. I know none of the battlers going to be watching me now. I hope that they see this at some stage and hear me when I say this. I do want to hear what they think. Because look, I know there's still Don't Flop and No Lose Chat, but let's just say for the sake of argument that Premier Battles is probably one of the more heavily organised organisations in UK battle rap at the moment, or at least with more resources in terms of manpower and finances. Is limiting them going to be a benefit or a detriment to them and to the scene? Are there ways of mitigating that Premier Battles could consider? How do the established UK battle rap veterans and the stars of today, even in a scene that I think a lot of people would argue has diminished over time in terms of its interest, in terms of fan interaction and things of that nature, and in terms of its just in overall engagement, but like, how do they really feel about it? Obviously, I'm more than happy to just have that conversation in private. I'm happy to admit it. I'm happy to have you on to discuss it. I think it's important to hear what people think about this, because ultimately, I think the big thing I take away from this is it's going to be a painful transition no matter what happens. It's certainly going to be painful for Premier Battles because they're effectively betting on themselves for this to work, because even though they are obviously not going to have to foot the bill for live events, and that saves money because they're not having to invest that money on diminishing returns, they'll be losing out on the Patreon because a number of people will inevitably cancel their subscriptions due to a lack of faith in what is being proposed, or just a lack of interest in what's being proposed. But also, are they risking alienating people that they might then call upon if it doesn't work? You know, if you tell battlers you can't battle for us because we're only going to be focusing on this particular group of people, and in a year's time you end up calling them again, are they going to still be around? These are all valid questions, and that's why ultimately I am a little conflicted about this, even though it's effectively everything I wanted. It does now make me feel a little bit concerned for people that I've been following for years, who I know who still have a lot to give to battle rap in the UK, and maybe feel this isn't in their interests or will have consequences to them. So I hope I can hear from them. I'm not sure. Speaking purely as a fan, though, there's almost nothing about this that I don't like. From top to bottom, the presentation, the execution, the fact that Briggzy has clearly given this a tremendous amount of thought and is executing this with every facet examined down to the last detail. It looks like they're wrapping their stream now. So there you go. There's almost nothing about it I don't like. I think it's great. Yeah, it's hard for me not to be excited by the prospect, not only because I think it's addressing one of the big problems that I think UK battle rap has faced in recent times, which isn't getting new talent. It isn't the amount of effort. It's not the amount of skill, or again, look, graphics, the production, the presentation, all the rest of it. It's this perception of it being niche, that it's only for people that are super nerdy and about battle rap or have been in it for a long time. They are attempting to vest themselves in a new generation of not only fans, but just general viewers. They are trying to platform themselves in such a way that would allow them to become presentable to people who would have otherwise not seen battle rap, as opposed to trying to compete with new content streams and new content creators using conventional methods, i.e. social media, shorts, podcasts, video releases, VODs, Patreon even. There's nothing about it I don't like. I think it's genuinely, it's one of those times where I was watching and I found myself nodding along to almost everything Briggzy said. Let me come back to some of the notes just to make sure I don't miss anything. So there'll be no new, for this tournament, there'll be no new tryouts or newcomers. You have to have appeared for Premier Battles previously, and I guess you have to commit to the prospect of at least 4 battles, maybe more, depending on if the format alters, changes, whatever they need to do. They've touched on a few things that are relevant to battle rap fans, such as, well, if there's going to be a tournament, what are the ramifications of the stakes? They're effectively saying, yeah, Hylas, the reason is because I figured they'd be talking about the comments in the comment section as opposed to the actual announcement, so I've left them to that. I'm talking about the notes that I took, so hopefully, and Hylas, you were there, so you know all this, so I'm still curious to hear what you think. Because this is huge. But what they've said is if Gemini doesn't want to participate in the tournament, that's an interesting question. One wonders if they've had that conversation with him already. If not, someone please approach Gemini for comment, because he's already had one belt dissolved because the promotion decided it's no longer promoting the belt. Imagine if he's the first double champion in history, but also then the first person to effectively lost both belts without ever losing them. That would be quite something. Unless he consents to competing in the tournament, in which case I suppose they could make the tournament for the belt or for the title. It'll be culminating in a plug event to start the 2027 season. The shooting is a TV show, essentially 16 battles in a day in 3 blocks, utilizing staff members like producers and directors, just like a television show, until the semi-finals, when they'll resume doing them live. So the basic twist of this, or crutch of this, is that they will I guess have an audience of some description, or they'll at the very least have some people to kind of view the battle, but they'll be staggering the releases, and they'll also be keeping I guess an NDA on people there to make sure that they don't leak the results. And then what will happen is you'll have the Patreon. They'll release it on the Patreon first, and then they will release it as a free live stream on a weekly basis after a period of time has elapsed, in order to again satiate the current generation of UK battle rap fans who are more accustomed to watching it on YouTube, but then also trying to give a pretty significant incentive into watching it on Patreon, because the production values are going to be much higher. If you want to find out who won, therefore what's going to happen next on a week-to-week basis, you're going to have to pay to see it on the moment. But I bet even then he doesn't know yet. Yeah, I didn't hear that part. When did he say that? It makes sense. Again, it's a lot to put on, considering Gemini. Again, we have to think of Gemini in the current iteration of UK battle rap, which is that he might battle once or twice a year because he's a champ. In this iteration, they are effectively saying it doesn't matter who or what you are. Wins and losses aren't necessarily the determining factor. We're effectively producing a TV show. TV shows, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. It matters who cares. And I think they're putting that at the forefront. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very excited about this, because they are starting to think of battlers as assets in a company. You can lose and still be an asset. You can win and be a detriment. It doesn't matter. It's whether or not people care about what you're doing. And so the way that he's trying to gear and steer this is to make sure that the people that are performing with that notion at heart, which is, we're going to invest in you, but you've got to invest in us in return by committing to doing 4 battles. You've got to be committing to this, that, or the other. So June the 6th, 2026 will be the first live event back. It's devised to provide weekly and consistent content aimed to provide an entry point for younger viewers. Once live events return after 6 months, their hope is people have invested enough and they will be able to make a more lucrative return on their investment going forward, because, as we mentioned, the idea is to then pitch this for sponsorship, for advertising, to then platform it in a different way, to reach out to content creators and platformers, to try and put Premier Battles in a more prominent position so that, again, more people can see it. Returning battlers can come on once a year to perform dream matches. So he mentioned that as well, but as a means of trying to bridge that gap between, again, the current iteration of what is Premier Battles and indeed the presentation of UK battle rap, as it has historically been for the last 10, 15 years, to what he is effectively proposing in terms of this movement. One of the other big takeaways that I took from this is so the notion of trying to treat it much more like a company, also trying to get away from this notion of it being a niche. But yes, there's certainly going to be a lot of controversy to this, and I think a lot of people are going to feel a lot of different ways about it. I did ask, was it a hard decision, or was it a natural progression? He didn't really answer that question in a direct way. I think he was kind of touching on it by saying, look, you know, we've had a lot of discussions and it's kind of we've reached this decision. It'll be interesting to hear who really was the proponent of this, because I feel like this is a pretty radical departure from what Premier Battles was effectively set up to do, which is to become a new bastion for UK battle rap with sort of the devolution or the degradation of Don't Flop. That hasn't really happened for a variety of different reasons. I mean, you could argue that the COVID pandemic hit Premier Battles as hard as it hit anybody in terms of a company, because, yeah, I mean, trying to promote live events during a COVID outbreak is hard. They still produce content, but that can't have been fun. But it's a departure in so many ways. I mean, how are the battlers gonna react to being effectively cast members of a television show? You know, there's going to be a level of professionalism that they're going to have to exhibit. There's going to need to be a level of compromise in terms of your own vision for your battle rap career. There were a few queries and questions about things like audience, because again, we've become quite married to the notion that audience participation is a huge component of UK battle rap, and it is. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not the promotion and production of this new iteration would facilitate that. In so much as, if you've got 100 people, 50 people in a room, can you trust them to keep their fucking mouth shut for 6 months? I wouldn't. So how do you mitigate that? Cammy was raising some interesting points about judging and how that's going to be handled. A lot of that is probably going to still be in the air for the foreseeable, because they are, by the looks of things, that again, all of this is the practicality of it. Like, logistically, how would it be structured? How would it be presented? Why is it again, there's a lot of logic and thought put into this. So I want to come on some of these comments, because I'm running away with myself. And just generally, man, I've got to be honest with you, I'm very excited by all this. It's I have to be honest, this sounds like a really, really exciting prospect. But again, the wrinkle in this for me is again, what do the battlers think? Hylas has said, a good point, what about make them sign NDAs? Dude, it doesn't matter if you make someone sign an NDA. Everyone's capable of fucking up and saying something they shouldn't have done. So again, you can make someone sign an NDA, but then what are Prem gonna do? Take everyone to court that breaks the NDA? Yeah, if they're struggling for money now, or struggling to make money from battle rap now, do you think they're going to be in the business of taking people to court for an NDA? I doubt it. I mean, maybe, but I think you're still relying on the honor system, so I don't know. So let's have a look. There's a lot of moving parts and things. That's what I want to hear from you guys. I really want to hear what you have to think. What are your sort of minor issues? What are your minor niggle? What are the little things you're excited about? Or what are the minor details that you've picked up on? Like, what do we think? This is huge. This is massive. They've torn up their calendar for the rest of the year and said, look, we're not going to persevere with what we think is a bad idea. We're going to start again, and we're going to start again as we mean to continue from there. I mean, I know Koj is probably going to be fine, but in the chat he was right. He sounded like he was giving it a bit of a, well, wait a minute, what about us? again, it'd be fascinating to find out how many people knew about this. Obviously, the Prem staff know, but did any of the Prem battlers know? It's interesting. I know that, a lot of them are quite close, so it would be interesting to find out who is announced, again, who knew what and when, and more pertinently, like, how many people are really happy with this. The thing about battle rap is, yes, it is it's a very small, tight-knit scene. There are people that are going to want it to stay that way. There are people that like being a big fish in a small pond. I feel a little conflicted, if I'm brutally honest with you, because I realize that as a very small channel, I might lose my access. There are going to be battlers that won't talk to me now because my platform is too small. Like, how do I feel about that? I cover UK battle rap on a fairly regular basis. How do I feel about if they take off and suddenly they're a million subscriber channel, or they make tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds? They can pay battlers a salary, and then suddenly the battlers don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, that's a conflict of interest for me as a content creator. That's probably a good caveat to this. So he also said he's going to try and work with influencers and live streamers and to whitelist people. He highlighted Koj, he highlighted Cammy, he highlighted someone else I can't remember. Didn't mention me. Make of that what you will. I guess the gimmick there is he is trying to bridge as many gaps and serve as many masters as he can in this transition, but ultimately the statement from this is you've got to come along. If you don't want to come along, we're not waiting for you anymore. And that's brash. It's bold. Again, oh man, what I wouldn't give right now, for, I want Quill on, I want to hear what he has to say. I want a Tony D on, I want to hear what he has to say. You wonder, like, about guys like Shuffle T, like, how would he, I know he's got a million things on, but I know he loves performing battle rap. Is he going to be happy with performing only once a year? I don't know. Maybe not. Again, it's fascinating, and from a fan's perspective, again, we're all going to feel different ways. And I'm so happy that, again, I've got 5 of you here with me. Thank you for joining me on this. I know it's so late. It's Friday night, baby. You got to go party, surely. But the comments are great. I'm gonna read them all before I finish. I promise. I'm gonna be working anyway, so when I'm done here, I'm gonna go back to work. But from a fan's perspective, obviously we can feel conflicted. From a battler's perspective, it's fascinating because even battlers that are geared one way, like they're becoming more acclimatized to performing once a year or performing when the battle is appealing enough to them. What if it was a different prospect? What if it is now more of that sort of don't flop-esque, we're a platform you want to be on? That could go two ways. It's fast. There's so many moving parts to this. I need just everyone. I need everyone's thoughts. I want to talk to your employers, HR. I am the HR department, Hylas. I am the HR department. That's part of the problem, but we'll leave it. Tell you what, DM me. We'll discuss it at length another time. So let's go through some of these comments then, because I want to make sure we've got so much to cover, and yet we probably won't have a lot of time because it is stupid late and a lot of us are going to pass out from exhaustion. It was clear it would be a small room with at least 40 people on there with die-up edge. Yes, he did mention that, in fairness. So he did talk about prioritizing people, which, again, considering the scene, everyone knows everyone, more or less. So if you've been following it for longer than they've announced this, the chances are they already know who you are. So it's not like they're going to leave you in the dust yet. But again, the only thing I would say about this is that people that are happy for this now, just bear in mind, because I am, by the way. And again, I'm highlighting to you that this is going to have consequences if it's successful on all of us, in the sense of our fandom is going to change, our interaction with UK Battle Rap, or at least with Premier Battles, is going to change, the battlers themselves are going to change. Like, again, I can't emphasize enough, one of the things that kind of blew my mind when I came to my first Battle Rap event is that the battlers were in the crowd. You know what I mean? They were, you know, sort of moseying around. And that's not how I built them up in my mind. They were stars. They were fucking mega stars in my mind. Like, Jesus Christ, that's Marlo. Fucking hell, that's Tony D. Jesus Christ, there's Joey over there. Stroh's over there. Fucking Bobby's over there. Like, wow, this is crazy. And you can just walk up and shake their hand. That's amazing. Except for when you're trying to build up mystique and investment from people, you do want there to be a separation, because it makes them feel like an attraction and important and all this other stuff. But are we 100% comfortable with that? Are we 100%? Again, it's the ramifications of this and the way it could go. If it's successful, we all might feel very differently about Battle Rap going forward. It's fascinating. It's really... And again, for my money, if I had to bet whether or not I'm going to like this in the end or hate this in the end, I want it to work. I want this to work. Will it? It's a big question. But anyway, let me come back to the comments. Let's have a look. Where is it? Where is it? There we are. Right. So, Canel said he was not having the attention, but that's an interesting one. I wonder if anyone else feels that way. You know, how excited are you about the prospect of potentially committing to a year's worth of content? Nell says, number 1, build a roster of unique characters. Number 2, curate and coordinate content to be more generally globally accessible. 3, encourage crossovers from neighboring art forms. Yeah, I think what they will aim to do first is make sure that they are clear in their branding, then number 1, then number 2, then number 3. At the moment, their biggest thing is going to be getting rid of that perception of what they are, which is a battle rap promotion company. They are trying to become a production company, a television production company that is producing regularly high production quality content with a cast of characters that you can grow to understand, become more familiar with, grow fandoms of in ways that is reminiscent but not exactly like you would have done with Don't Flop back in the day if you only followed them on Facebook, YouTube. They are trying to afford people an opportunity to build their own narratives and to start to follow battle rap in a way that they haven't been able to for a long time. At least that's the pitch. Briggs sort of so we covered that. First it was January. Yep, okay. You could bribe him with a Jaeger bomb. I'm sure that would be enough to keep them from spilling the beans about who won what, especially if it becomes popular. I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to keep them from spilling the beans on that one. Don't think the results will be leaked will matter too much. People will watch to see what the new format is and what the production values are. At first, maybe, but again, don't forget, David, that the whole point of this is to garner investment in what's actually happening. If their business plan hinges on no spoilers, then they're gonna have to reconcile that, because knowing who wins and loses based on the perception of the room on the day is going to affect whether or not you're inclined to watch the battle. If viewership turns, and again, I'll remember what the point of this is. The point of this is to garner viewership. They are trying to generate an audience that they can then take to a subscriber, you can tell I'm going too long, subscriber, a sponsor or an advertiser, and say, look, we have this inbuilt audience that you can pitch your product to. That's for nothing if it doesn't have an uptick in viewers. They're going to have to gear themselves into constantly upticking. It was the same thing with the WWE Network when that launched years and years ago. They had a minimum threshold of subscribers they had to hit before they made any money. And for a long time they didn't hit it, which is why they were ultimately talking about pulling the plug on the network far sooner than they did. They ended up hitting it and surpassing it, but it's the same with here. They're going to be, if they're smart at least, they have a number in mind that they're going to be going to with people that they know that they can approach with those sorts of numbers to say, hey, listen, we're worth this much. It's worth your investment. So coming back to the point that you raised, David, I don't think the results will matter too much initially either. There's idle curiosity that will need to be satiated as to how it's going to look, how it's going to feel. How do we, again, the feeling of saying I was there for the first one, or I saw the first one live, all that stuff. But as you saw with something like AEW, for instance, it is then, right, but what's the product? What is happening that I should care about? And more importantly, is it more interesting than what's going on over there? Because the other downside to this is that potentially Premier Battles is putting itself in the firing line of other content creators who are more seasoned, have content that's more readily... it engages with people more readily and more easily because it's more understandable for whatever reason. Again, it really all depends on how they now present this in the format of a TV show. They're going to have to host it properly. They're going to have to format it properly. They're going to have to pitch it properly. There's so much they've still got left to get right that they're going to have to figure out if they're going to really stick the landing on this one. Again, if I had a better relationship with Briggzy at this time, this would be the perfect opportunity to really say, listen, man, you gotta explain this to me. We need to go in the weeds. If I can get a hold of anyone from Premier Battles to sit down and talk to me about it, I will let you know as soon as I can. I will probably end up approaching some of them this evening before I go to bed so that they see it in the morning. And if I can get anything arranged to say, look, maybe we can't answer every question, but let's try and satiate our curiosity just a little bit more, because I have so many questions. I reckon all the Apex battlers have been told ahead of time. Kojo's trolls. Yep, that's a possibility, but still interesting to hear from them at this point. I'd love to hear if that was part of the pitch. Because again, even the format of the nature of that card is very unique comparative to what they've done historically over the last year or two. Wrestling tapings for spoilers used to ruin the shows. Yeah, a little bit. I can see where Harless is coming from there. I think the wrestling analogy is a little bit. It's you still, if you hear something happens and you care about seeing it, you'll still watch it. And again, that's kind of the critical element. It's not now about they're getting away from it's a big name, I want to see what he does. It's I want to see what happens next with this particular character performer in relation to the scheme of the tournament. Because remember that they're trying to build this up with Jeopardy because it's a tournament format. And they're trying to then parlay that into ongoing live shows and events so that they can continue to run them in the way that Battle Rap has been run, presumably. So that much of spoilers. Yep, I agree, David. I agree. It seems Hylas does too. Briggzy, the person I really appreciate as a fan. Yes, look, again, this is why I was keen to point out in the comments. It looked a bit sycophantic. I will completely concede that point, but it was worth stressing again. As critical as I am, and I can be very critical of them sometimes, and I've been very critical of them, the one thing I've always appreciated is that when you get Briggzy, and when you have the opportunity to ask him a question, he's very forthright with you, and very courteous, I would say, in his answers. Very, very courteous. And I think in this occasion, again, it's not a direct comparison, but compare this to the fucking Don't Flop D platforming fucking palaver that we saw a couple of months ago, when literally no one knew what the fuck was going on. To my knowledge, no one really does. We've got a general idea now, but no one ever came out and spoke on it. Compare that to this, where it's, look, we understand this is going to be upsetting to some people, or it's going to cause some controversy, or it's going to be conflicting for some people. But let me explain to you what I want to do, how I want to do it, and why I want to do it. And I hope that the cachet, and again, this is him, you would hope people have built up enough of a cachet to trust in his vision for it, and certainly his execution of it. If it was appropriate to stand and applaud, I would. That is exactly the kind of manner that you'd want to see someone conducting it. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm a massive fan of it. I'm here for it. Gast is in the Gast, dude. Gast, what the fuck you doing, dude? He's just been on the stream. Like, I can't. I'm sorry. Gast Buff is in the fucking comment section. You know he knows everything. Fuck it. Hey, Gast, I dare you to come on. Dare you. Double dare you. Triple dare you. I wonder how well you'd hold up under pressure under the circumstances. Because, dude, I have so many questions right now. And I don't know if you can keep it. Again, I feel like you'd be Tom Holland under the lights. I'd get something out of you. But to be honest, I'd be interested to hear what Gast has to say about this. Because, again, it affects him as much as anybody else. I mean, think about it. Oh, God. Still in the... I thought, yeah, David, I thought he dipped too. I'm only joking with you, Gast. You probably get more information out of me somehow, some way. But think about Gast. Think about the level of investment he's put into Battle Rap over the last couple of years. And now this transition, this pivot, that has ramifications for even someone like him. There's so many. Does he? Why? Are you saying that I should... Are you saying I should? Should I push to get Briggzy on? Is he more liable to let something slip? Interesting. We'll see. Again, since he's watching, Gast, I'm going to hit you up tomorrow. I want some info. Off the record, on the record, I don't care. This is catnip to me, my friend. I'm so fucking excited right now. I can't even begin to tell you. I've been talking for 46 minutes, inconsistently and incoherently. This is amazing. This is great stuff. Let me come back to the comments because I'm just rattling now. So, where are we going? Where were we? Let's go back. So, I've been accused of multiple people. Someone has to be running it. And yeah, all the kids are asleep. Well, look, dude. Again, this is what I'm saying. I can't believe I've got 7 people. So the 7 people watching. Thank you very much for joining me in this evening. Again, if you haven't seen it, you can see the link actually is on Twitter. I've reposted it a few times, so feel free to go and check that out. Gasbuff was there hosting with Briggzy, with Stro, and with Trouble, and again dropped a bomb on us, ladies and gentlemen. Dropped a fucking neutron bomb of an announcement on us. Let's go back to the comments. So, think about the top here. That's an interesting way of putting it, Hylas. I'll read your comment. They're actually taking the power back from the top tiers, aren't they? It's a brash decision, but I back it. I don't know if I'd phrase it that way. There are only a number of people who I would say don't have a immediate and abundant passion for what they do. I think whether or not they can be motivated to perform in certain situations is only in relation to their perception as again their own brand and their own standing within battle rap. It's the reason why, Bobby Rex isn't gonna accept an opening battle on a card against someone you've never heard of anymore, because justifiably he would point to the big shiny belt on his arm and the fucking career he's cultivated. It is still fascinating, though, to think that they are effectively saying to someone like a Bobby Rex or to a Quill, even to someone like a Gemini, like, we understand, we appreciate everything you've done. However, we need to take this in a new direction because it's about what the fandom that we hope is there wants, not even the fandom that we have now. We need to position this to the 14 and 15-year-olds that were on the pen game comments saying that battle rap is trash, in a way that gets them to change their mind, because there's an audience there, just like there was 10, 15 years ago when Don't Flop was going through its boom period. And I commend Briggzy, and indeed Premier Battles as a whole, for at least having the presence of mind to think, right, we can't do this in a way that's going to satiate everybody, and we certainly can't do this in a way that brings everyone along for the ride. We will try and placate where we can, but it's about what we think is the long-term benefit of not only Prem, but generally, I think if it works, UK, because again, other leagues are going to have to take a look at how they did it and approximate it in some way if it works, and avoid it like the plague if it doesn't. So one way or another, Premier Battles is going to leave an indelible mark on the fan, again, our fandom of UK battle rap as we know it today. There's no getting around it. But it's interesting that you put it that way, because I again, Hylas, I'd want to hear what the battlers think about this. Candidly, I'd want to hear about it on air, but I just as quickly want to hear about it in private, because this is huge, man. This is huge. And yes, it is a great opportunity to create main eventers and new stars, but again, try and get away from that thinking, I would argue, of the winner being now that's the brand and that's who we're putting people behind. I would encourage you to think of it more like a soap opera or wrestling, in the sense of, yes, that person's story has culminated, but we've got to be mindful of permeating, continuing the story into next week, because we've got a show to run now. We've got to continue to give people reasons to tune in. It's not enough just to book the card, hope it sells, do the event, deal with the dropouts, deal with the flack, deal with chokes, and deal with stuff like that. It was what it was. We'll move on and try and do better for the next one. They are effectively trying to guarantee a quality and consistency by pre-producing it, by pre-arranging everything, by predetermining a lot of the destinies of a lot of this stuff, to guarantee you a level of quality and consistency that you can buy into as an audience, as a fandom. And again, we've all been asking for that to some degree for a long time. And I get that some people are not happy with some of it, but lads, it was always going to be painful to a certain degree. So, some stars, I hope we get people like Whispers, RX, Slimbuck, Reverse, Pagan. Gasper said Whispers will never be on Premier Battles. This is built for RX, Pagan, and MK. David says. Hyla says, I love Slimbuck, Mav, Sean Cray. Okay. Okay, sorry, work-related query. Bear with me, folks. Cool. Sorry about that. So yeah, Sean Cray's an interesting choice, by the way. Do you reckon he can commit to 4 battles in a year? I don't know, because again, I feel like he's cultivated a reasonable. Again, someone like Gast. I mean, Gast. Are you competing? I gotta know. I need to know. And Hylas has actually gone in there and say, yeah, what about you? Are you going to be performing? Interesting. Conversation with Whispers needed. Okay, fair enough. That's I don't know the context to that. I'm leaving that for another day. This is not a negative show like the earlier wasn't a negative show. This is I was so tempted to go to the Portsmouth event, but it was an 8-hour show. Yeah, again, Gas Buff, hardest working man in fucking UK battle rap. Right, okay. Interrogate is okay. Gasp, interesting. Okay, this is where we're getting it here from the front line. Okay, in the interest of transparency, I'm being transparent about being transparent, so don't believe a fucking word he's about to say. There genuinely wasn't anything that was discussed in our production meeting about this that we didn't talk about. Okay. So I guess he's saying that they've disclosed everything that there is to disclose, reasonably speaking, not without going into the nuts and bolts of the production that they're planning, which is fair enough. Again, I guess the other question I would have asked is Premier Battles planning on broaching this with anybody, especially anyone that is disgruntled by it? You know, anyone that isn't particularly pleased to be omitted from the format and the potential opportunity that it brings. Okay. Sorry. One of my guys has been on the road since 6 o'clock this morning, and he arrived at my house at 11, hence why I started this at 11:30, and he's still working just like I am, because we're both fucking idiots. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, where winning matters, this new tournament format. Don't think any battles. Yeah, well, it doesn't look like anything has been formalized. Yeah. Hylas, you cheeky bastard. I asked that fucking question first, you son of a bitch. I asked. You motherfucker. Right. I asked Briggzy if they were looking for a younger demographic or a disenchanted older Don't Flop fan base or both, which I thought was a good question, but he had checked out by them and missed. Oh, good. Haha. In fairness, actually, I think I asked something very similar. He postponed it because he was waiting for the for Stro and the other less hard-working guy to turn up. If I had to guess, though, Hylas, I think it's pretty clear that they're aiming this not necessarily for a younger demographic, but they're aiming it at a demographic of people that are open to content. Again, think about it. Name any prolific television show that's blown up over the last few years and tell me what's consistent about all of them in terms of their theme, the people in it, what they even do in the show. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't necessarily... there isn't a formula to what catches fire, but there's certainly one thing. You've got to put it where people can see it. Battle rap in current times, I would argue very strongly, based on my current experiences with the fact that being off Twitter, battle rap fucking evaporates, lads. It doesn't exist except on Twitter in the UK at the moment, really. You can get some from YouTube and a little bit from Instagram and this, that, or the other, but it's almost exclusively Twitter where you interact with UK battle rap, and it has to be said, a large number of the UK population in particular isn't on Twitter much. They either aged out of it, didn't age into it because they never joined now, or the people on Twitter sometimes just aren't people that you want to interact with. You know, it's not necessarily a great base to build a, following, because it isn't necessarily where you want to build a following. Again, a lot of what is being pitched here is by just uprooting it and putting it in a place where you can see it. Again, that's not a bad... There's nothing about that that's bad. Nothing about that, about trying to change the level of exposure that they're going to get, is a bad thing. It's a fantastic thing. It just makes me glad I've had my Patreon, so I can apply for tickets and hopefully attend a taping. That's interesting. I still have my Patreon access. I cancelled my subscription a while ago, though. Also, it'd be interesting. Again, I don't know. I will see about trying to... I would love to be at one of those. Like many of you, I'm sure. But purely from the perspective of... I've been to a few events now. I pretty much have the gist of how they do them, in the sense of rock up, how they set up, how they then schedule it, film it, record it, the outtakes, all the rest of it, and then ultimately how it goes on YouTube. I have some video editing experience, so again, I sort of see... Okay, that's how it goes together. Okay, good to know. All right, cool. Yeah, from a content creator's perspective, I just can't wait to see how they transition their experience as it is now to that. That's going to be very interesting. Facebook forum, which is a big following, but just died out. Said people his age are on there. I'm not. Well, here's the thing. So think of it like this. They might have aged... The viewers of battle rap from that era may have aged out of Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. They didn't all die. There's nothing that says that they can't repurpose and repackage it and represent it to another generation of people that who would have been there in that era, or would be there now if an equivalent of it existed, which is where they're going to try and put it. It's as simple as that. And it's not necessarily about recapturing an old fan base. I think what they're trying to do, like I say, is they're trying to shake off the shackles of what battle rap is in the eyes of the people that are aware of it now, in time, and in order to then present it to a new group of people that have no preconception of what battle rap is, and present it how they want to present it. And it's as simple as that. Right. We've been talking for an hour. There's still so much to cover. We're 12:30 at night, lads, so I'm going to probably call it there. I guess here are my top takeaways from this. This is a radical move, and it probably serves to alienate just as many people as it's going to illuminate. I count myself in the people that are fucking ecstatic about this decision. There's so many good things that will come out of it for battle rap and for the battlers. As a fan, also, I am a little bit conflicted, because that it means that my relationship with battle rap in the context of being at a live event is about to change pretty significantly. In terms of how I digest it, is going to change pretty significantly. I don't worry about the whole whitelisting, blacklisting thing. I react to battles when I want to, and I don't make money off them anyway. So rest assured, that whole thing doesn't really make a difference to me. I really want to hear what some of the battlers have to say. Not only some of the older heads that this threatens to alienate potentially, but also some of the younger heads who feel like the glass ceiling of battle rap fandom and maybe those top tiers is about to be removed. How do they feel about that? Good thing, bad thing, consequences, ups, downs, their concerns, their thoughts, their wonders, their worries. I also wonder how confident Briggzy is. One of the things I'd love to ask him if I had the opportunity at this point is, right, based on your... Because again, look at Briggsy's body of work outside of battle rap in terms of his production, filmmaking, editing, marketing, all the rest of that sort of stuff. How confident are you this is going to work? Without giving away the specifics, what's the ceiling on this in this current iteration if it works? Gast, someone like Gast, like, you've put so much effort into its current incarnation. How do you feel about being someone that's going to help propel and be a proponent of this new iteration? And how successful can you be? Because again, how he's perceived could change because he's now exposing himself to a new generation or a new iteration of fans. There's so many questions. I will make my inquiries starting tomorrow, and assuming that Prem don't do a follow-up, Cammy doesn't do a follow-up, anyone else doesn't do a follow-up, I will do a follow-up on this in the coming days once I have something for you. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Premier Battles is going mainstream. And my initial reaction is I'm here for it. So listen, to the 3 of you still watching, and to the 17 or so people that have tuned in over the last hour, on top of presumably watching an hour's worth of content from Premier Battles, and potentially even 2 hours from me prior to that, and Cammy's the hour before that, you've been fucking spoiled for choice this evening as a UK battle rap fan. So listen, thank you for joining me. I sincerely hope you're taking care of yourself. When you see this, I hope you're as excited as I am. It would appear I have some work to do tomorrow. I look forward to getting started, and then I also start to look forward to this new generation. So listen, let's go. Premier Battles, they're going mainstream. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, check out some of my other videos and my other interviews. This was big. This was big. We'll have to see what happens. My name's been Lon Risley, host of the show. Have a good rest of your evening, or more accurately, go get some sleep. And yeah, I'll see you on the next episode of the Halcyon Show. Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable.